It's all about favorite cardigan knitting patterns in this video. When the weather starts to warm up a bit, we can pack up those winter knits, but it's still a bit chilly and cool. That's the perfect time to pull out some cardigans because you can layer them, take them off if you're warm, but when it's chilly, put it back on. But how do you narrow down all the possible choices? There are just so many patterns out there. That's when I love to go to my knitting friends, and if I can't find any in person, then I go online and I ask about your favorite cardigan patterns, and you shared some great responses. So I'm going to highlight 12 of them in this video, sharing your favorite cardigan knitting patterns. So perhaps you'll find a new one that you want to cast on and knit for yourself. Hey nerdy knitter, Tanya here. I'm a certified knitting instructor and a master hand knitter, and I believe that knitting is a form of self-care, that you can take time for yourself and your creative pursuits, but still create beautiful garments that you love to wear. One of those garments, hand knit cardigans, and we're going to look at 12 of them today. These are patterns that other knitters shared with me. I asked recently right here on YouTube on the community section if people had any cardigan patterns that they loved, or maybe they've even knit multiple times. And there were lots of great responses. I can't share all of them or we'd be here for a really long time, so I will link to that discussion down below and you can go see all of the other recommendations as well. But we're going to go over to my computer screen and look at 12 of those recommendations. We're going to go through each one and look at the pictures and talk about the sizing and the features and the yarns and if they're free or paid and all of the details about each of those patterns. So let's hop over to the computer screen. Our first recommendation is the Folklore Cardigan from Lion Brand Yarn. Now, Sandy recommends this one. She says, I have knit 3 Folklore cardigans from Lion Brand. It's easy to follow, and I love, love, love cables. And you can see, yeah, there are cables everywhere. We've got really pretty cables with some seed, it looks like moss stitch or seed stitch in the center of those panels. Down the arms, we've got cables running up the sides. There's probably cables on the back as well, would be my guess. There's no other pictures here, so we can't really tell. Then we also have like that secondary color, just for a pop of color. There's one stripe down the button band down the front. Doesn't look like there's any buttons here, so just an open sweater. And then 2 stripes along the cuffs and the hem as well. So a bit of color. Very varsity style sweater going on here. So this one, if we check things down here, it doesn't say much here, but I checked it earlier. It uses a worsted weight yarn. It comes in 3 different sizes, from a 45 to a 60-inch bust for the finished sweater. And from the instructions, I can see that it's knit bottom up flat. So you're knitting all of these pieces separately and then sewing them together. And it's a set in sleeve pattern. If we look, you can see that the sleeve is connected right up here. It's not hanging down here on the arm like you'd see in a drop shoulder. It's more closely fitted. Even though it's still oversized, the sleeve is still up there. So I would say, like, for the project level, we're looking more at an intermediate level here because we've got all of the cables going on. You're knitting in pieces, it's a set and sleeve, and you're sewing it all together. There's a lot of techniques here. None of them are super hard, but because there's so many, I would say it falls more in the intermediate camp. And you can't beat the price either. It's a free pattern, so you can download it right here from their website. And if you're not sure if it's the right pattern for you, it's free. So download it and check it out, and then you'll be able to tell whether it's something that you could probably learn those few techniques and be able to tackle this sweater. None of the techniques are particularly difficult. It's just new techniques that you might have to learn that you haven't explored yet. Life is Mrs. Cooks recommends this cardigan, the Latte cardigan by Kirsten Joel. She says it's absolutely beautiful. And I agree. This one has ended up on my to knit list because I really like it. I like the length. It looks like it'd be nice and comfy with like a pair of leggings. I really like this all over texture. And then we've got this buttoned band that's sort of knitted on. I really like that detail as well. And the big pockets. It's just really like, it looks like a comfy oversized sweater. So the construction method used here is a drop shoulder. So when we talk about construction method, we're talking about how the sleeves and the yoke are worked or joined together. And when we look at this one, we can see the shoulder is literally dropping off onto the sleeve down here. So it's a drop shoulder, the sleeve's connected down here. It's a more fitted sleeve, which is fairly modern. Like, that's the modern take. If you think of like the 80s sweaters, it was all oversized, and even the sleeves were oversized. Everything was oversized. But now, well, like, we still do the oversized body, but we've slimmed down that sleeves, and that gives us a more modern take on that drop shoulder. I really like these nice deep pockets. I seem to have an issue sometimes when I do like added pockets. I don't make them big enough. So I really love how big and roomy the pockets are on this one. So this design is knit in pieces. It's worked bottom up. You're working all of your pieces, working flat and seaming them together, which gives it a lot of good structure. And then the button band is knitted right onto the opening, which I like as well. I really like this button band here. And here's some more pictures of that design. We can see just that really, it looks like a simple texture, but I just like the look of it. Like, it just looks really comfy and cozy. So if we look at the details down here, we've got 12 different sizes ranging from a 36 to a 78-inch bust. That is the finished measurements of the garment. And it uses a DK weight yarn. And because of everything that's going on, like the last pattern, I would recommend this to be about an intermediate level, because you do have an all over, the textured pattern looks pretty simple. I don't think that's an issue, but you are working this in pieces and sewing it up. But even that, as a drop shoulder, it's probably going to be fairly simple, but then you've got pockets and you're knitting on that button band on the front. So there's just a few details that like move this up a little notch. So maybe adventurous beginner to intermediate knitter should be fine. And the pattern costs $10. Then Lorna recommends the Inner Beauty Cardi from Knit Collage. Now in her comment, she has only knit 2. Both are from Knit Collage. The first was the Koreen Cardi. It's a combo of crochet and knitting. We had so many recommendations, I had to narrow them down. So we're just going to look at one of them. Her second one, the Inner Beauty Cardi. I did not use their yarn, but purchased suitable yarn on our California driving holiday. I haven't had a chance to wear this cardi, but can't wait to. It was quick and fun to knit. And it does look like a very quick knit. We've got bulky stitches going on here. It's using super bulky yarn, so it is going to knit up very quickly. So if we just look at some of these pictures, there's a few different colors here. It does have that bulky, oversized look. It's a close-up picture of it. Now what's really neat about this one is there's stranded knitting, but up here we are seeing the inside of the knitting, if you will. This is like when you knit a stranded sweater and you turn it inside out, we're seeing all of those floats on the outside of the work instead, and that's really highlighted here. Well, you can see it right there, where we're seeing the inside of the stranded knitting, but it's on the outside of the sweater. So this one is knit top down, featuring that stranded color work. And then the body and the sleeves feature this bubble stitch pattern. And then later on you come and pick up the stitches around the neck and you have this shawl collar. But because it is super bulky yarn, this is going to knit up very, very quickly. And it comes in 9 different sizes, from a 33-inch to a 65-inch finished bust measurement for the sweater. Uses that super bulky yarn, and the project level, the website lists it as beginner to intermediate. It doesn't look like there's anything that's too incredibly difficult here, and the stranded knitting isn't like a super like beginner type of technique, but because you're using such bulky yarn, it's a really probably easy way to get used to the rhythm of stranded knitting. So definitely worth checking out if you like super bulky sweaters. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's because I'm larger sized and that just would be a lot of extra fabric for my size, but it is definitely cute. And the pattern is $10. Beverly recommends the Pure Comfort Cardigan over on the Biscot Yarns website. I really love their yarns. This was designed by Andrea Yetman for Biscot Yarns. Now this is another one of those like extra long cardigans. They feel so cozy. They just look perfect for just relaxing around the house. So this one is a top-down raglan, and we can tell that by looking at the sleeve construction. You can see these increased lines worked right here. And those diagonal lines tell us that it's a raglan sweater. So you're casting on, everything is worked all together. You're working flat because it's not a sweater worked in the round. You're working back and forth in rows, but it has that raglan shaping. And then the front band has this right here. At first I thought it was brioche, but it uses fisherman's rib, which technically the finished project the finished look of fisherman's rib and brioche is exactly the same. It's just how you get there that's a little bit different, but the fabric it produces is exactly the same thing. And then further down we've got those pockets that are inset right into the pattern, and then we're finishing off with, looks like knit 2 purl 2 rib down here. Now this one comes in let me see, how many was it? It was 6 sizes. You can see the information down here. From a 40 to a 54-inch finished bust measurement, uses DK weight yarn. You can see more of those lovely pictures. That shawl collar just looks so nice. But I would say intermediate level, because brioche fisherman's rib can be a little harder, especially if you make a mistake trying to fix it. But the Raglan shaping, super simple. And I mean, it's worth checking out. It is a free pattern, so you could always download it and look at it to decide for yourself whether it's within your wheelhouse. And a few people recommended the Rebel cardigan, and this one also ended up on my to knit list. I just really like the shape of it as well. Jane Bell says she's working on this and loving it so far. And then Frances also says she's just cast on and she's loving it too. So this one is knit seamlessly from the top down. Let's see if we can get bigger pictures. There we go. Now this one is a little bit different, which I'm drawn to. Sometimes if I see like a different construction, I really want to try it out. So in this case, you're starting with the collar first on this design. You're knitting that first, whether you're doing this long one or that shorter, like hip length one. And then you pick up stitches for the back neck back here along this part. And you shape the upper back along these increase lines right there. And that gets the back of the sweater. And then you pick up stitches along that line there to knit each of the front right and left shoulders. So all of that part is worked separately until you get down to the underarm for the back and the fronts. And then you join them together, but of course you're still knitting flat back and forth because everything's not in the round at this point. But it looks like a really interesting construction, working on this front part first, like the button band, where I mean there's no band there, but the front band, and then working the back with the increases and then working the fronts. It just seems very interesting. So you've got this short hip length one, and then there's the longer version. And this one comes in 9 sizes from a 40 to a 65-inch finished bust circumference. And it uses yarns held double. So you're holding a sport weight and a lace weight held together, which they say equals a worsted weight for this pattern. So you could use, if you don't want to use 2 yarns, you could use a worsted weight instead. And because of this construction method, I would put this more at an intermediate knitter. So if you want to explore some of these different construction methods, which is one of the things I'm drawn to when I'm looking at garment patterns, then this is one you'll want to check out. And this one costs $7.44 US. Up next is the Hitofude cardigan by Kiroko Fukatsu. And this one I think had a moment a couple of years ago. It seemed like everybody was knitting one of these. I'm never one to jump on trends, so it's just at the time I don't know what I was busy with, something probably, and just didn't get around to it. But I did have it in my favorites list because I really like the shape of it. I think I love the way it just falls and drapes with that A-line. I like a good A-line. I like the way they fit my body. And this one has just a really lovely shape. So it is knit top down in one piece. You're starting with the upper body and the sleeves. They're worked together as one rectangular piece before working the body. And then that lace is continued down the sides, and you're adding some increases in the lace section, and that gives it this A-line shape. So you can see there's more stockinette stitch, I think, in between. You're adding some stitches in here. So it gives it that subtle A-line. You still have the lace going on, but you're giving it more of an A-line shape by adding more stitches in between those lace panels. So it looks like a lovely, like sort of spring cardigan. You've got that lightweight, it's lace, it's got elbow length sleeves. It just looks like nice. Just a lovely piece to wear with some spring or summer dresses. So this one comes in 6 sizes from a 28-inch to a 54-inch finished bust measurement. Uses fingering weight yarn, and I would say probably an intermediate level knitter should be fine with this. I think most of the patterns here today are that's where I would probably categorize most of them, because there's usually something going on that might be a little bit different that a beginner is not quite used to or has seen before. And the cost of the pattern is only $2 US. So yeah, I think I will be jumping on this one pretty soon. That's a really good price. Our next recommendation is the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. Now we had 2 people recommend this one as well. Jenny says she loves it. She's knitting her second one now. And then another comment said the same thing. They really loved making it and they're already planning on making another one. And you can't beat that. You know that that is a good pattern when somebody knits it and then they want to knit a second one. So definitely highly recommended here. So this one is another raglan sleeve shape. If we look closely, there are some eyelets. It's decorative, but it's still a raglan, even with the decorative detail. Just the way the arm or the sleeve sits into the body, this is a raglan sweater. Pretty classic shape. It's cropped, just a basic stockinette raglan with that little pretty detail in there as well. But when you find a basic sweater that fits your body really well, then yeah, then you use that as your base pattern, and you just knit that one all the time. And it's just a very, very pretty sweater. So this one is knit top down as well. So you're casting on up here, and you are working the body of the sweater, or the yoke of the sweater, the sleeves and the fronts and the backs and the back, until it gets to the armhole depth. And you put those sleeves on hold and you're knitting the rest of the body till that's done, and then you come back and you finish your sleeves. And then you have your button bands to pick up and knit, and then you finish with probably this neckline button band up here, or neckline edging. It's not the button band. The button band's down the front. And it comes in 5 sizes, from a 39-inch to a 57-inch finished bust measurement. It uses worsted weight yarn, so it'll knit up pretty quickly, especially where it's more of a cropped length. But even that's adjustable. If you want it longer, then just buy more yarn and knit it longer, however the length that you like. That's definitely adjustable. So definitely, I would say this is more of an adventurous beginner. You're ready to tackle your first garment. This one is totally doable. There's nothing here that would be particularly difficult. And this one costs $7. Here's another one of those oversized lounge around the house cardigans, the My Comfiest knit cardigan. This is another one of those nice long ones. It doesn't look too difficult because it's just stockinette. So if we look at the construction, see how those sleeves are meeting the body, then this is a drop shoulder. The shoulder is dropping off and it's down here. It's connected right here. So we've got a basic drop shoulder. This one is definitely simple. It's just stockinette stitch. It's basically 3 rectangles that you are going to sew together and then work your button band and add your pockets. So definitely suitable for a beginner knitter who's ready to tackle their first sweater. This would be super perfect sweater to start with if you want that oversized lounge around the house sweater. It uses worsted weight yarn, so it won't take too long to knit. Comes in 5 sizes, from a 36-inch to a 52-inch finished bust, and it's a free pattern. So if you're a beginner ready to tackle a sweater, you can't really beat that price. Lori recommends this one, the Everything Nice hoodie. So a hoodie is definitely something that should be on your list to knit once. And I really like this one. So this one is a raglan as well. You can see there is the shaping lines right there. That's how the sleeve connects to the body. But in this case, it's knit from the bottom up. So we're starting down here at the hem and working this part first. We're working that ribbing, and there looks like there's a ribbing detail continued up the sides. We've got this pocket that is inset right into the body. So you're knitting up to the underarm, and then you are working all of the parts where you're joining and making the raglan shaping, and then you'll come back and finish your sleeves. And it looks like, oh yeah, there's even optional like thumb holes in the cuff as well. And I really like the front button band. We have a button band here, but then we also have like these I-cord loops for the buttons, which is really nice. And of course it finishes with a hood. So that's on my to knit list. Not this particular one, but I'd like to knit a hoodie with a hood. I've never knit a hood before, so something I would like to add to my list. This one comes in 7 different sizes, from a 31-inch to a 50-inch finished bust measurement. And I would say because we've got those pockets and the hood, this probably falls within that intermediate category. And they even provide a nice little schematic here so you can get an idea of what's going on there. And it is $7 US. Louise recommends the Pride and Pearls cardigan from Vakika. She has a fabulous YouTube channel. You should definitely check her out. And this is one that has lots of lovely texture here. There we can go, get a little bigger. It looks like some kind of rib pattern on the front, both sides and down the sleeves. And then we've got some cables and some lovely baubles here as well. And there's a drawstring through the bottom hem, which is nice. And there's a nice folded collar. Looks a little fuzzy, so I'm guessing it is 2 yarns held double. And some of those designs on the back as well. Just a really lovely piece. I like the addition of the drawstring just to give it sort of waist shaping. If we look at this shaping here, it looks like a raglan. Nope, I'm checking my notes right now. It's a drop shoulder, not a raglan. Oh yes, we can see right here. There's like that straight line. There's no seam running this way. Looking at that picture from the back, it looks like a raglan line, but when you see it from the front, there is no raglan there. Definitely just a drop shoulder going on here. And these nice balloon sleeves. It doesn't look like there's any shaping, and then they are decreased down here before finishing with that twisted rib. Really lovely stitch patterns. She has a way of combining textured patterns in a sweater where they're very textured, but there's still a very feminine feel to them. It's very nice. So this sweater is worked from the top down. You're starting with that back part here, and then you pick up stitches for both fronts, and then you're working them, and then when they're long enough under the arm, you're joining all of that and working it back and forth to finish the body. Then you've got sleeves to pick up. With her instructions, she does say you're picking up the sleeves around the armhole, and they're knit down right along with the sweater. So it's pretty much finished by that point, and then you've just got your button band, which is done in double knitting, and your folded collar up here, and finishing with that little drawstring down at the bottom. So I like that she has so many just little details like that. The balloon sleeves, the drawstring, the folded collar, just really gives it a nicely finished touch. It looks really almost like it's machine made and not like a hand knit, especially when you have like a folded collar. I just think that's always like a really nice finishing touch on a cardigan. This one comes in 9 sizes from a 37-inch to a 60-inch finished bust, and you're holding 2 yarns together, a sport weight with 2 strands of lace weight. She still calls it a sport weight, so you'll have to check out that gauge information to see if that will work for you. And because of what's going on here, I would say this is probably more for an intermediate knitter with the bobbles and the texture and all of those little finishing details as well. And it costs about €7. Timely by Truly Myrtle is our next recommendation. This is one of those cute, perfect for summer, just lightweight cardigans. 3/4 length sleeves. It's just simple stripes, and you can see the lines right there. That tells us it's a raglan joining the sleeve to the body with that increase or decrease line. Let me see, which way is this? This one is knit top down, so those are increase lines. You're starting up here and increasing until it's the body size and sleeve size you need, putting those sleeves on hold and finishing the body, and coming back and finishing the sleeves. And it's very sort of fitted, 3/4 length, perfect for like summer, definitely. What I really like about this one is the stripes. There are stripes in there, they're very subtle, but if you have a variegated yarn and you're not quite sure what to do with it, pairing it with something that has stripes is a good way to break up that variegation so you don't get sort of like odd flashes or pools of color anywhere. So definitely one to consider if you want just something simple, lightweight, using variegated yarn. There's nothing particularly difficult here, so I would say an adventurous beginner would be absolutely fine with this one. This one comes in 15 sizes from a 27-inch to a 57-inch finished bust measurement, uses fingering weight yarn, and costs about 16 New Zealand dollars. Number 12 is the Oversized Seasons cardigan from Ozetta. Now this one has more vintage style or feel to it. I don't know if it's the length or something about it feels very vintage to me, but we've got lots of texture going on here. It's all over texture, some kind of a rib pattern. Now this one is knit top down, and the button band is knit at the same time. So there's going to be less finishing here as well. If you don't like to pick up stitches for a button band, choosing a pattern that has it integrated is a good idea. And if we look at our construction line right there, you can see this is a raglan. We've got that raglan line. And this one also includes some videos as well, so for many of the steps in the process. So for those who want like just a simple all over texture, don't imagine that the texture on this is going to be very difficult. It looks like some basic rib really, but it could be like a fisherman's rib or something because it looks a little squishy. Or that could be the yarn. And the integrated button band and the raglan shaping, fairly simple. I would still put it at an intermediate level because we've got the all over texture going on at the same time as trying to do like the shaping for the sweater. And this one, let me see, the price is $6.50. I think that is US. So you've probably found a pattern or two that's going to end up on your to knit list. I know that I did. And if you have other ideas, I'd love to hear about them. So leave a comment sharing your cardigan knitting pattern ideas with us. And if you're looking for more inspiration, go check out those comments to see what other knitters have to say. Check out that community post. to see all of the other cardigan recommendations. I know I learn so much from other knitters, and I love all the fabulous ideas and tips that you share with me. This is really a great community. And if you want to continue hanging out with me, I'm going to put another video right here so you can click through, and I'll see you in the next video.